add in here. So it doesn't matter what order I put those in. This is where it gets a little confusing because I can go like this, or I can go like this. They both mean the same thing. Adding says property, community property says you can swap them out. So what drives this is this bottom number, this denominator. Whichever one is larger is the A. So always look to see who has the larger denominator. So this is going to be the A squared, this is going to be the B squared, no matter what order they sit in, because it's commutative property. So your ellipse is going to be elliptical around the y-axis. And slightly more, not a lot more, but slightly more. And your foci sit on the major axis. Your vertices, your foci sit on the major axis. On your minor axis is just your co-vertices. And again, this formula is really important. We subtract because we want to bring it inside the ellipse. Stop me if you have any questions. I don't know where this came from over here. It's strange. So this one, the larger denominator is under the x, so that's your major axis. So it's going to be elliptical off the x-axis. Now they could be translated axis as well, depending on your center. My center is still at the 0, 0. No h or k here, so we're still at the 0, 0. You can get radicals. If you get a radical and you want to write this one like this instead, plus or minus radical 5, that's perfectly fine. You can't resolve it any more than that. The next one, my major axis is my y, and this is a translated axis. Again, once you find the center, if it helps, just translate your axis. Your axis went from here to there. Just make yourself another axis. Keep track of what side of the axes your points fall on. That's the only thing that's important. If this side is 1, 5, and I have to go down this way, 5 units, I don't want to be underneath here because 5 puts me at the 0. If this goes over 3, I don't want to be short of that axis. B is from underneath here. Your format is this. Well, x minus h. A squared and b squared are interchangeable depending on which one is the larger number. So this guy, this is our major axis. And the 9 is under the x will be. So it'll go this way. When it's underneath the y, it will go this way. Then that becomes a. This becomes a squared. This becomes b squared. Because this is a plus sign, I can write those in any order. When we do the hyperbola with the subtract, then order matters. This order doesn't matter. What matters is the denominator. For you guys that were in here also, are you catching this? Okay. Basic format of the ellipse. Again, there's all kinds of formulas, but try not to memorize the formula. Try to get a feel for when you find your center, and then it's going to go over. If you know which one, like for instance this one, my center happens to be 0, 0. My x, this is going to be larger. There's my a. Set this up right away. A, B, C. So I'm going to go 3 over, 3 over. Radical 2, like radical 5, which is a little bit more than 2, and 2. And my foci come inside on my major axis. C length away from the center. We just have a translated center for this guy. I put the formulas here in case you're a formula person. I always get one kid that loves the formulas. But even with the formulas, you got to kind of stop and think which way you're going. Okay. Complete the square. So we said yesterday we can tell this is an ellipse because we start out like a circle. There's your circle. Your circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Now, for an ellipse, we're just going to take this and set this equal to 1. So technically, my circle is just like an ellipse. But all we're going to do is, because it's elliptical, those won't be the same. So basically, we start like this. And a squared and b squared are where these can change. For you guys that learn here. Now, to know that this is an ellipse, if you look at these two pieces, there's a plus sign between them. They're on the same side of the equal sign. There's a plus sign between them. And I know it's not a parabola because there's two squares. I know it's an ellipse because the coefficients are not the same. If the coefficients are the same, I have a circle. But if the coefficients are different, I have an ellipse. So gather your x's together, gather your y's together, move your constant to the other side, and complete the square. Don't forget, your leading coefficient has to be 1. So pull out the 9, pull out the 4, and when you complete the square, don't forget to distribute this back out so you can bring it over here. Last thing you're going to do is divide by 36, whatever this is, so you get it equal to 1. And then you say, okay, which number is bigger? 9. That's my a squared. This is my b squared. Make a list. A is 3. Remember, the top is squared, so is the bottom. B is 2. And we have this special little formula. You're going to take a minus this guy, and this is going to be radical 5. And then you can start setting up your parts. Everybody comfortable sketching it? Just again, see how these hit the axes? Just again, just be careful where it's going. It's almost like finding an intercept, but you don't have to find your intercept. You just have to count the boxes. Like kind of count in your head. Good. Any questions, or we're good? Your question is 17? Why does it have a fraction? Haha. Ah, yes, it does. Okay. All right, so get this one set up. We know this is an ellipse because of this. We know this is not a parabola. You know, it could be a circle or an ellipse because it's a plus. The coefficients are different, so it's an ellipse. So complete your square, and you get right to here. Everybody get right to here? Right? Now, our format says this. There's nothing in front of us except the 1. So we got to get rid of this 16. So if you divide the top by 16 and divide the bottom by 16, we just flip this down here. And can you take the square root of 25/16? Absolutely. Separate them. Comes 5/4. This guy is a 1. Yeah, c squared is not exactly as pretty to walk through, but we could do it. Take the square root of that. You got fractions, a lot of fractions in your answers. No, when you're here, when you want to get this out of here, divide the top by 16. What if I had this fraction? How do I reduce that? How do I get that 2 out of there? No, how do I reduce this down? I divide this by 2, and I have to divide this by 2, right? I'm not doing 2 over 2, which is 1. So divide this by 16, divide this by 16, and it brings it to the bottom. You can't leave a leading coefficient up here. Get it to the bottom. Sometimes we end up with it on the bottom, and we just have to move it around a little bit on the top. Okay? And be careful, because even though that's a fraction, That's an improper fraction. 5/4 is larger than 1. So even though that's a fraction, it's still bigger than 1. So that's my major axis, my x. By barely a little bit. But my sketch is barely going to show the difference, but my vertices have to be on my major axis. My foci have to be on my major axis.
Wouldn't A be like the square root of 5/4?
A would be the square root of 25/16, which is 5/4. Only take the square root once.
What is the number for where it says foci? Is that 7/4?
7/4. It's the 1 plus or minus, because in your center you're 1 negative 1. So my center says 1 negative 1. So my x is moving. So I took this guy, and my c value is 3/4. So I'm just doing this. Technically this. So just even put it in your calc. 1 minus 3/4 just gives you a fourth left. 1 plus 3/4 gives you 7/4. Good? A lot of fractions in here. Not your favorite words. Because you're taking the center and you're moving A. So my center is at 1. I only want to move the x. You're moving A distance away, and A is 5/4. So if you subtract 1 minus 5/4, put this over 4/4. This gives you negative 1/4. 4/4 plus 5/4 gives you 9/4. Or just do that part on your calculator and flip it back to a fraction. I would set this up first. I want to take 1 plus or minus 5/4 and just put that in my calculator. Don't give me decimals, give me fractions. Okay. This guy, this one was a nice easy one. Center at 0, 0. Are you okay with that one? And all these hard ones, they throw a nice little easy one in there. So I can live with it. Maybe because I had all radicals in it. It was a little different. The last one. This is your last one. Oh, so that was a little confusing. That had a vertex with a half in it. So don't panic when you do that. Get your vertex, your center, Get your center and decide. My major axis is my A. So my x is going to be my major. So when I do this, I'm just doing 1/2 plus or minus radical 5. Now, I'm not going to be able to resolve that. So you can just leave it like that. You can just leave it like this. You don't even have to separate them. I only have to separate it, like say if it's 1/4 and I'm going to add 1/4 and subtract 1/4. That I can resolve. Radicals I can't resolve. So if you want to leave them like that, that's fine by me.
What's that on the end when you complete the square in the red way? If there's something plus.
So this half of 1 is 1/2. 1/2 squared is 1/4. I got to distribute that 12. So 12 times 1/4 is 3. Then 20 times 1 is 20. So that's a factor out of 12 over here. Remember, you have to have your leading term be 0. Your leading coefficient has to be 0. You don't have to worry about homework. All right. We need to find the equation of an ellipse. that has vertices of 0 plus or minus 8 and foci at 0 plus or minus 4. So the first thing we're going to do is sketch out what we need. 0, 8, this is a vertex. 0, negative 8, this is another vertex. So which axis is my major axis? Y. Y is going to get my larger number. So right away, I know I'm going to be like this. I'm going to set this up. And which one's going to get the A? The Y. Alright? So what do I know from here? If that's my vertex, my vertices, what's my center? 0, 0. How did you get 0, 0?
Right in the middle of the major.
It's equal distance, so and sometimes it doesn't always fall like nice and looks like that, right? So we took the average of the x's, we took the average of the y's. Add your x's together, divide by 2. Add your y's together, divide by 2. Wait. And come to your vertex, your center. Because sometimes they won't be here, they'll be like over here. So you want to keep the same, find the midpoint. Okay. So we know your center. So what does that take care of in your equation? The h and the k. So my h is 0, my k is 0. All right, so the distance from my center to my vertices is what? 8. What letter is that? What letter? A. Good, because didn't we decide that that's our major one? So now we know A is 8. So I'm just going to come here and put this in. So we got everything out of that already, right? Now, second clue. Our foci, foci 0, 4, and 0, negative 4. What does that give me? C. So what is C? 4. So all I need to find is B. But I have nothing here that's going to tell me, I know it's going to go like oblong, but I don't know to where. But I have one little formula that I can use. C squared equals A squared minus B squared. Won't that find me B squared? And that's all I need to do is find B squared. So I take C, and this time I have to square this, A, and I have to square this. So this gives me 16 is equal to 64 minus B squared. Subtract 64 from both sides. And I don't think I have this one. What's 64 from 16? Negative what? 48. Thank you. Now, all I care about is B squared. So I know this can't be a negative, so I divide by a negative 1. So B squared is equal to 48. I come up here and just take this whole thing out and say 48. Do I need to take the square root of that and then go back and square it again? No. So I rewrite everything. X squared over 48 plus y squared over 64 equals 1. Yes.
I feel like we didn't finish like drawing the whole graph. Do we need that?
No.
Or that's just like we can use that.
You only need this part to see which parts you're getting.
So you won't grade us on
No,
that.
no, I just need you to find the equation. You do need to do this though.
Yeah, just to know.
Yeah, because this way it'll tell you where's your major.
But if we
What
don't
you're
finish it, like how we just didn't finish
No, I wouldn't bother because I wouldn't even bother to take the square root of B. Like I don't care what B is because I only need B squared. And then B, I'm going to have to worry about reducing my radical, and then I'm going to get my radical and square it again. I would just rather plug in the 48 and I'm good to go. Easy, right? Not a lot of things to this, but don't forget this piece right here. Okay. Do you have another one? Okay. Why don't you guys try the next one? Just take a minute and try it. I think this one. What is C the distance from? Who deals with the foci? Which letter? C. So I got to be able to tell C. C is the distance from my center to my foci. And my center is equal distance between those two foci points. So Lily, can you find me the center?
2, 1.
Okay, so 2, 1. This is my center. So I'm going to start like this. X minus H, Y minus K. Okay? Which one's going to be my major axis right now? My X? Okay, my X. So this is going to be where my A squared is. So my foci, from the center to my foci, is what distance? 2. So now I know my C. And that's all I can get out of that so far, but I got a lot. I got my center, I got my C. So my next piece of information says my major axis. Well, which one is my major axis? My X or my Y? My X. So the length of this major axis, this whole major axis, will be 6. So what will A be? From here to an endpoint.
From the center to the
From the center to an endpoint. Okay, if this whole thing is 6, my center comes smack in the middle. What's 6 divided by 2? 3. So my A is 3. Right? My major axis length is 6. My center comes smack in the middle. So A is from the center to the endpoint. Just divide this in half. So now I need to know B. That's more important for me, B, than C. But I do have this little formula. So I do C squared equals A squared minus B squared. And all I need to find is B squared. C squared is 2. Thank you. I'm thinking ahead of myself here. Minus B squared. So I'm going to subtract this. And again, B squared is equal to 5. Do I really care what B is? So should I take the radical and then re-square it? I just need to replace this with a 5. My A, I am going to have to square that one. So now I got my whole equation. Okay? Work one part at a time. Well, A, because I found the distance between the center and the endpoint. That was A. My formula says A squared. Now, when I found B, I stopped at B squared. I could have done this. B equals 5, radical 5, and then come up here and squared radical 5. And then, but why bother? At that point, all I need to do is finish in my equation. Okay? So you got the rest to do.